All right. Welcome, everybody, back to We Are the Game. I'm Michael, and that's Luke. And we are going to talk today about this last week's game of the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams division matchup that did not go the Arizona Cardinals' way. I think we'll dig into what do we think went off the rails there from what looked like at the beginning to be a pretty good opening kind of drive for the Cardinals and where things may have gone from there and what highlights there may be from that. So, with that, let's jump in because, again, it did look like at the start of the game that this looked okay. It looked like things were going in a decent direction. And there in the first quarter, what did you see? Were you like, oh, okay, cool, we've got some things going? Or were you like, nope, this is just going to be a good opener?
I mean, there was that. It was a good start. They marched down the field. They went with a bunch of two big Trey McBride catches and a big Michael Wilson touchdown, and just nice little opening salvo. But that's what you're hoping for from your first scripted drive and all that, your first 15. And so yeah, I thought that worked out rather well given the tools that we have now. Like we've kind of established at this point, and if you didn't already know, I'll just tell you now, we don't have a run game. Jacoby Brissett led our rushing attack with 22. So we don't have a run game anymore. We are a run first team that has no run game. So that's kind of the Cardinals in a nutshell, to be honest. But yeah, no, it's we did open up well given the tools that we had and what was working. So great. We just you kind of need your defense in this kind of game to step up and do some things, and they were unequal to the task today. But yeah.
No, I agree. And the running game thing, it's hard to hold anyone really overly accountable, I feel like, on that for me anyway, on the Cardinals side, just because, man, you've had such a like, it's kind of like you and the Chargers have had so bad luck with running backs this season. And I feel like both teams in some ways have had luck with, hey, some of the guys that they bring in step up, have a pretty good game, but it's really forced you kind of to abandon all running game. And this one, I think Bam Knight and Michael Carter had a combined 10 rushes in the game. And then neither one of them, in my opinion, are particularly good. Good at like, hey, let me just run the ball in from the 3 or the 4 kind of a thing. Like I got to bully my way in. They're kind of that back you want to throw the ball to and have them run through bigger open gaps. It's a challenge for sure. So yeah, there's some challenges there. I did actually feel like your offensive line, in some ways, I thought they played a little decent on the pass defense side. Jacoby was under pressure, and he did have 3 sacks, but that's a tough defense to go up against. It's a tough defense to hold on. What did you think about kind of things from a pass protection kind of an approach there, I guess?
He was getting moved a fair bit. It really was. The sacks don't tell the whole story. We only got sacked 3 times, which for us is turning into this great thing. But he got hit a lot and pressured even more. So it's still our biggest. Is that true? Yeah, it's probably true. It's still our greatest weakness is our offensive line is just not playing well this year. We're queued up to be one of the worst with pass block and such. So that is a persistent problem. And I don't think the Rams even have an elite pass rush as a whole. Like they have some really good pass rushers, but their consistent product, so to speak, there is kind of high middling. So it does worry me more as we close out against some upcoming games against like Houston and Atlanta, who have elite pass rushes. So yeah, that's going to be real fun. But the offensive line, it is what it is at this point. It's clearly not going to get much, if any, better this season. I'm glad he's not just getting killed, Jacoby Brissett, that is, but he is under pressure a lot. So yeah, and then of course the other side of that coin is that's probably the biggest thing in what's killing our run game is that they are just people talk about it. People who actually know offensive line talk about how like their pad level's just terrible. Like they're high pads all the time. And if you want to push for a run game, obviously you want to get low. And so like it's stuff you should know, but they're just not doing consistently. So I don't think there's a consensus on where the problem starts, if it's a coaching issue or it was a conditioning issue or they're not healthy or what exactly is going on there. But they are not as a unit operating particularly well. I always forget the word, but the massively believed sentiment is that we will need 3, maybe, offensive linemen going into next season. Some people think 4. So there's a lot of change coming, and I guess a lot should. So, yeah, the O-line does not make me happy, but I don't think that they played incredibly worse than they did the week prior or the week before that. They just kind of are what they are at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. On a high note or an intriguing note, I still haven't exactly figured out what to do or think about Mr. Michael Wilson, who all of a sudden, and I, because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, the person that he has kind of magically fallen into the conversation in my mind with, in terms of like how he's reacted to the number 1 being out and the opportunity that presents for anyone else on the team, is, in these last few games, these last 4 games, Marvin Harrison was back for 1, but he's had 185 yards in one, 100 and almost 20 yards in the second. Harrison comes back. He has 36 yards in the next game. I think there were other things going on in that game against Tampa Bay, but still. Yeah. And then he's out again. These are good defenses. Like, these are good defenses. This is San Francisco, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and the Rams. He had 142 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, is he evolving? Do other teams just not care? What is your take on this last 4-game emergence of what all of a sudden looks like, forgive me for saying it, a gross misuse of a resource throughout the season? So what's your take on that? Where do you find yourself in this?
It's a little column A, a little column B. So it's yes, it probably is some junkyards, right? If I'm saying that it's junkyards for Jacoby Brissett, it probably is a bit for Michael Wilson. Some of it's going to be prevent defense that the opponents are playing because they're up by 30 points and they're like, whatever, let's just get out of here. That kind of thing. That's a real thing. And we've seen players like Allen Robinson, wow, he was really good for a terrible Jacksonville team. And then he just kind of was mediocre for the rest of his career. And we don't know if that's what Michael Wilson will be or not. I will say some of the catches he's making, some of the plays he's making after the catch are quite impressive. And they have moved the needle for me somewhat, where he's on a much smaller scale. Let's calm down just a little bit, but he's kind of Larry Fitzgeralding a little bit, where his first couple of years when he did make catches, it was as soon as he got touched, it seemed like he fell down and he wasn't making all the clutch catches as much, where now he's harder to bring down and he'll just keep going. I mean, he's not going to get away from everyone. He doesn't have DK Metcalf speed or whatever, but he is much tougher to bring down. You can tell he's been working on that aspect of his game. So there are some real positives there. And it feels like I'm talking about both sides of my mouth. But the Jacoby Brissett yards, I'm not super impressed, but Michael Wilson's actually making some tough catches and doing things with them after them. So almost like if you're judging all of the catches as a group, but like looking at them individually at the same time, like how he's catching them and what he's doing in those individual plays, I'm impressed with his game. I think that he is making himself some money. He'll be going into his kind of contract year. In some ways, this is his contract year with the way that football works. But next year, he'll be looking to either get paid or get traded to some other team that's looking to pay him. He should make himself some money. He's a little over 700 yards, I think, right now. I forget his exact number. But if he cracks 1,000 and has 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, I mean, this is a guy that's looking to make $18 to $20 million a year suddenly. And that's great for him. Now, do the Cardinals decide to keep him and he can be the 2 or the 1 or the whatever with the combo with Marvin Harrison Jr.? Or do they try to trade him to bring in more draft capital and to save the capital to move on to other things because they need 3 or 4 offensive linemen, as we alluded to earlier? So there are some fun possibilities there. And I don't feel bad for Michael Wilson because one way or another, he's going to make a bunch of money and he's going to get to play football. So that's good for him. He looks like a guy that has ascended from promising college guy to really good football player. Again, I don't see Jamar Chase or anything like that. This is not Justin Jefferson
Yeah.
reborn. He's looking like a pretty darn good player. And if he can emulate 90% of what George Pickens or T. Higgins or one of those guys are, then great. He's going to have an amazing NFL career. So that's really great for him. I do think that this adds up for him because of the individual plays that he's making and showing what he can do more than the Jacoby Brissett stuff. Like Jacoby's taking what they give him, giving his guys a chance, and the guys are really taking advantage of that chance. So I'm not trying to go after Jacoby Brissett, but I do think this means more for the receiver than for the quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very interesting point. Yeah, I'm excited for the guy. I don't think, for me, I wouldn't think this is enough, and maybe after 3 or 4 more games, but I don't know that this is enough to say, yeah, he's that. Maybe on your team, it's enough to say, hey, we want to commit for a year to him being a 1, right? But for another team looking to go get him, I mean, he reminds me of where Christian Kirk was when he left. Christian Kirk had some amazing, and he's had some success elsewhere a little bit too, but not as much as that. I feel like that last year, as that he was with the Cardinals, maybe 1 year after that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what y'all decide to do with him. I'm happy for the guy. He's having I bet you he's enjoying playing a lot right now.
Yeah.
On the defensive side, I know there's going to be like, well, there's nothing positive to look at there. But I wanted to ask, what was your take on Will Johnson, who I think has been a real bright spot as a guy who's coming in, getting a good corner in the draft and getting them developed into somebody who can play effectively is a real challenge. What do you feel? How did you feel about this game? Because obviously they have a nightmare on the other side of the ball in Puka Nacua. What was your take, or did you have any takes, or you think that it's just another game for Mr. Johnson?
Well, broad strokes, several years ago now, there was that game between the Rams and the Chiefs. I think it was in Mexico City, and the end score was like 52-54 or something like that, right? And of course, everyone was extolling the quarterbacks. It was Jared Goff when he was still with the Rams, and of course, Patrick Mahomes in that year where he broke out and had 50 touchdowns and all that. It was just crazy, wild game to watch and all that. Well, the next day, I think on like Good Morning Football or something, they decided, one person was just like, hey, yeah, we've talked about the offense a lot, but let's shout out a couple of defensive players who played really well. And I immediately clicked off. I was just like, no, it's 52-54. You're lucky you're not all fired. Like, the defense doesn't get much credit this game. There are good players on our defense who are playing relatively well, but this is a combination of maybe you didn't have a good game, and maybe the Rams just came in and played perfectly. So whatever it was, I'm not going to give the defense a whole lot of credit. Again, I'll go back to broad strokes with Will Johnson. I like Will Johnson overall. I've been very happy with his gameplay. I hope he can find a way to stay healthy, because that's been his number one bugaboo, and that was his big thing coming out of college, rather. And so, if he can stay healthy, I'm excited for the possibilities there. Even if he only plays 13 games in a year or something like that, he's still worth a lot because he plays well. And I like him not just against the pass, but against the run. I mean, he's a pretty complete corner. So happy with that, but he needs to stay healthy. And again, on a day like today, I mean, you're not getting much. So, but again, no one is. This is not just like, oh, Will Johnson was the problem. It was like, no, the defense was the problem.
By association in this one.
Yeah. But we can go down the defensive bunny trail if you want sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's, you get to come and have a rehash of this here at the last game of the season and the end of the season, I believe. I think, and y'all are up against the fun just keeps going. You're up against the Texans, who have shown up to be all of a sudden looking like a playoff team as well, coming up this next week. So hopefully the defense will have let's hope it was just an off game and they can come back and play a good game. We'll see if Michael Wilson can show up against another great defense. Be fun to see what happens in that. Fun may be the wrong word, but we'll go from there. We'll catch up on that another time. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks everybody for joining in. We hope to see you next time. Please throw us a like or subscribe if you want. We'd love to have you join us again. Definitely chime in on any comments or questions you may have. We'd love to check them out and answer them. So we'll see you next time.